Hello, Harry and I hope you're having a great day today. Thanks so much for opening today's video as we're excited to talk to you about the 3 top most common mistakes that we see people make in the area of estate planning.
A lot of people think it's a good idea to register ownership of their home with their sons or daughter in order to avoid probate fees. In reality, there are many reasons why this is not advised for the majority of situations. Probate is 1.4% in BC. So for example, if your home is worth $1 million, that would be $14,000 in probate fees that would be paid inside your estate. Making title joint with your child can end up being much more costly than 1.4% in probate fees. You have to consider potential capital gains taxes, creditors, and potential mistrust or misuse of the asset.
A great example is this fictional one that we've thought of. Joan is 86 and a widow. She decides to change the ownership of her house from solely owned to jointly owned with her son Nick. In doing so, she hopes to avoid probate fees on her house when she eventually dies. Nick already owns a family home with his wife, which is his principal residence. Joan eventually dies when she is 96. In the 10 years from when she made Nick joint owner, her house appreciated in value from $1 million to $2 million. Unwittingly, Joan has made Nick liable for capital gains tax for his half ownership stake in the $1 million appreciation in her house's value. Nick is liable for capital gains tax on Joan's home because he already owned a principal residence, and you can only have one principal residence, which is tax-free, at any given time. Assuming Nick earns $100,000 at his job and is in a 38.29% marginal tax bracket, he'd have to pay an extra $117,000 in tax based on a $500,000 capital gain. If Joan had just left the ownership in her own name and passed her house to Nick through her estate, he wouldn't have run into this tax problem at all. Joan's estate would have simply paid $28,000 in probate fees to transfer the $2 million home to Nick through Joan's will. Even more attractive still, Joan could have transferred her home to an alter ego trust and made Nick the beneficiary of the trust so that when she died, he would have received the house through the trust rather than her will, and he would have avoided probate costs altogether. Alter ego trusts cost roughly $7,500 to set up and do have some ongoing annual costs to consider. When assets are high enough in value, though, alter ego trusts are often a worthwhile estate planning tool.
Another common mistake is that parents often fail to plan for their children's need should they die. Basically, every adult should have a will, and this is especially true if you have children. If you have children, you will need to name a guardian and a trustee. A guardian is a person who will be responsible for stepping into your shoes to look after your child on the day-to-day basis, just like a parent would. If you do not name a guardian, anyone can come forward to dispute the custody of your child after you are gone. Anyone who is interested can ask for the position, leaving a judge to decide what's best for your child. A trustee is someone who will manage whatever property you pass on to your children until they become legal adults. If you don't name a trustee, the court will do it for you similarly to the guardian. You can choose one person as both the guardian and the trustee, or choose 2 different people. There is no right or wrong way. The most important thing is to think this through and make sure the people you have selected are well suited for the job at hand and that you trust them completely.
Perhaps the most common mistake of all is not having a will. When you die without having a will in place, you are said to have died intestate. When you die intestate in BC, your assets are distributed according to the Wills, Estates, and Succession Act. Every adult who owns assets or has a spouse or young children should have a will, but many don't. If you don't have a will, you lose control over who gets how much of your estate and when, you give up the right to appoint a guardian for any young children you have, and the cost to administer your estate is guaranteed to be much higher, leaving less money to whoever eventually gets your estate, like your loved ones. Going to see a lawyer or notary to draft a will involves a cost that prevents many people from getting a will put in place. This expense is well worth it compared to the alternative of dying without a will. Many people choose to draft their wills using inexpensive will kits that are readily available online. For people with basic estates, this can be a viable option and is certainly better than not having a will at all.
Excellent points, David. These are 3 great examples, and there are many, many more that David and I can help you with.
As always, Harry and I would love to get together with you to discuss your estate plan or anything else that you might have questions about.
Take care.